Hey everybody, Orange Podcast Bad. We are back with another episode. 16 we're on, Paul. Can you believe it? And we have a friend with us that we hang out with over on X. Awesome guy. Nick is his name. I want to say hi to Nick. How you doing, Nick?
Doing all right, man. Just living life out here in East Texas.
That's
A
right.
fellow Texan. Always glad to have a fellow Texan in the room.
Well, not too far, I don't think, but we won't talk about locations on here tonight. But I don't think you guys are too awful damn far from each other, which is pretty impressive for a state got so goddamn big, right?
That's right.
So, Paul, I sent you a video earlier. It's making its rounds. A Cessna pilot comes in unengined, off. Props stopped moving, not even moving.
Yeah.
You got it's not it's going so it's coming in. It lands on a golf. Well, it sort of lands on a golf course. What I thought was amazing about it was he took every last bit of lift that plane had and used every second of it, and he was still doing pedal work and ruddered his way around a tree
Yeah.
to drop it down.
Yeah. Full flaps, no prop, a 70s vintage, looking at the wheel skirts, was a 70s vintage 152. And dude, the man's a maestro. You
It's
were right. The
incredible,
dude's got some stick time.
incredible.
'Cause,
So, uh,
yeah, they would have dumped it over and cartwheeled it if it was anybody else. But he really did a nice job.
well, and he's gonna be able to. I mean, he's gonna have to replace fender skirts on the wheels. He's gonna have to make sure that there wasn't a prop strike. Other than that, his plane's gonna be flyable here in three or
Oh,
4 weeks.
oh yeah, yeah, good to go. All the FAA comes out, gives it an inspection, they recertify it, and he's good to go, man.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, so there's gonna be a bunch of I guess there's gonna be a bunch of morons hanging out in Kentucky watching this race, this 60-second long race that's only got these vehicles only have 1 horsepower. I like I've never understood the fascination of the Kentucky Derby, even though I lived for I don't know how many years just north of it in the Indianapolis area. But the Kentucky Derby's on tomorrow. Anybody excited about that?
I'm excited about the
Day
fashion.
drinking?
I'm excited about the fashion. That's what gets me.
All right.
I like the big haired gals with the hats on and all their southern regalia. When any other time you see them at Walmart with fuzzy slippers and sweatpants on, So I think it's cool.
That's right. What about you, Nick? You watch the Derby?
Nah, I'd rather watch rodeos, something that any old person can get involved in. And I did quite a few rodeos back in the day, High Country Stampede, and just outside of Granby, Colorado. Did all three rough stock. I tried to go for all around cowboy, and at that point you
Wow.
can just walk up and just do it, and you don't need that $5 million horse. You just do it. You do it for the fun. You do it for
Yeah.
to challenge yourself rather than opening up your wallet. So that's just who I
Dude,
am.
are you gonna do Kid Rock PBR?
No, I'm trying to get my boy into it right now. He did a mutton busting a little bit. He's only 4.5. He's not even 5 yet, but trying to get him into that a little bit.
Yeah, the Kid Rock PBR is coming to Fort Worth here in a week or two, and I'm trying to talk to my war criminal wife into going with me to go to it.
Dude, that'd be fun.
Oh
That'd be
yeah,
a
it'd be
lot
a
of
hell of a
fun.
lot of fun. PBR is great, man. I love PBR.
Well, I mean, it's just a fun event. So on the Derby, I had a friend of mine. We were working together, doing big retail pharma. You know those guys. And him and his wife decided to go one year. So I stayed and manned the facility. And he came back. And, he had bought the $1,000 suit. She'd bought the $1,800 dress. They had the hats. And he goes, Sean, listen, like you and I were in a fraternity together, and we had some good parties in our day, but this is ridiculous. This was just fat drunks dressed up the entire time, passed
Wow.
out in the lawn. Like it's like they show you the grandstands because that's where they just make sure the passed out people get thrown out back. Like
Yeah.
he's like, that's all it is. It's a freaking drinking festival. He goes, nobody even knows what happened when they leave. He goes, well,
Wow.
obviously I did because I drove all the way from Louisville back to the Indianapolis area. But he goes, everybody in my SUV, like he's like,
Yeah.
it was not worth the money. Wasn't worth
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
You know what is this week or this month though, right? The greatest spectacle in racing. And since I'm in Charlotte and Charlotte area, everyone seems to think this is the racing capital of the world. And I tell them, you guys have no idea what a race is until you go spend an entire month in Indianapolis doing events at the Motor Speedway.
Indianapolis 500. Yeah. The Brickyards.
Yep. So it's going to be fun. And that weekend, so it's a double header. You have the greatest spectacle in racing, and then there's a NASCAR race later that night in Charlotte. And some of the drivers do try to do a double header, which is kind of interesting. So I'll watch the 500, and then I'll just put the 600 on in the background to see how the guys who ran open wheel are doing in the second race of the day as they're
Yeah.
trying. Right.
Yeah.
What
Pablo, Arbajima Dabadobo, and those guys. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
what about Mile High Nationals in Colorado drag racing?
Dude, Indianapolis has yeah. So besides Mile High, Indianapolis also has a massive drag race every year, nationals, and those are fun, dude. I've gone at least a dozen times to the drag races, and you start out at the weekend with right, just amateur sport cars, and then by the end of at the end you're doing Top Fuel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you see? Is it Susie Force? The
Yeah.
daughter Force. 349. Just busted all the records. It wasn't even close. She just blew them all out, man. And she's a hottie. I just love that. That's so cool in drag racing.
I can't imagine 349 and a quarter.
Yeah.
God.
What do
Well,
you,
I think
what,
right now
2, 3 G's she's pulling?
Oh, at least. Yeah, it's got to be.
they're pushing 12, 13,000 horsepower on
Oh yeah.
a not very big tire.
I bet, and you get up
15,000.
close to those engines, and I asked. I said, what's
15,000 horse. An F-35 doesn't have 13,000 horsepower.
no?
You know what I mean? Jesus Christ, dude.
But it also drinks 20 gallons of fuel in a quarter mile, right? An F-35 can't do that.
Yeah.
That
Almost
quarter
though.
that quarter mile is 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Think about emptying, even pumping 15 gallons of gas out of something in 3 seconds. That takes that takes a little bit.
So I
Yeah.
got up next to one. Some chick who was hitting on me pretty hard at the time. Her dad was a bigwig VP, and he got us tickets to the pit and tickets to right the catered tent area, and we did that for a week, and it was a good time. The chick didn't win, but we had a good weekend. Anyhow, we got up next to one of the top fuel cars, and they had one of the mechanics, and they had one of the drivers out there, and we were looking at it, and we're like, why does everything look double? Why is there double spark plugs? Why does it look like there's double fuel lines to the injectors? He goes, it's not double. It takes that much to fire the cylinder. So you don't have just one spark plug and one line of fuel coming in with an air jet, right, an inlet, a fuel injector. You've got each side of the cylinder head, and they're massive compared to what you would look at on a standard hot rod car.
Right. And you're talking about, a piston size this big doing the same RPMs as a Honda 750 or, with pistons this big. You know what I mean?
Well,
just lighten it up, dude.
To bring the difference, right? So an Indy car, which is probably the fastest track car out there, is a twin turbo V6, small cylinder, and they're, at top speed, they're running 240 miles an hour. Track speed,
Yep.
they'll be in the 230s, but
Yep.
they just don't have the torque to do that in a quarter mile. But they're
Right.
far more fuel efficient, which is how they can go on 3 pits over 500 miles.
And in IndyCar, you got choices of 2 blocks, Honda or General Motors. That's it. Nobody else is doing it. So you either have a Honda car or you have a GM car.
Also, the formula cars, mathematically they can drive upside down just through G-force at 150 miles an hour and stick and drive upside down just through the G-force.
Yep.
Which is part of the physics they've been working on, because there's been times at the Indianapolis 500 where a car has absolutely jumped the fence because of the aerodynamics of the thing. So they've been
Well,
working
that's,
on.
I got to tell you, Sean, that's why I like IndyCar over F1. F1 is so technological, and every little thing is so technological. IndyCar is open wheel NASCAR. It
Yeah,
really is. It's you know,
and
and
they're
that's
doing
why
50,
I like IndyCar racing over F1.
and they're doing 50 miles an hour faster than any NASCAR can put out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All most of that's all aerodynamics, right?
Yeah, but Nick's right. I read an article the other day about theoretically an Indy car in one of those big tubes could roll up and still drive on top of the tube upside down because of the downforce and
The
all
amount
that
of
that
down,
they produce. Yeah,
right, right, the amount of
unbelievable.
downforce. Wow,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
In my
Let's do
opinion,
a little you want to do a little politicking? Let's go to Germany. So, the German intelligence have just banned the AfD party, like banned them, and now are listed as terrorists, and they're surveillable. So, no warrant, kind of like the stuff they did to Trump in 16 and late
Yeah.
15.
Yep.
Sound pretty familiar?
Yeah.
yeah. So did Germany just create the Patriot Act, but on the AfD party?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, I don't know, guys. I think I think they're cooked. I think they're cooked. I don't know that they come back from this.
They've just lost their minds, dude. They have really lost their minds. Western Europe, Eastern Europe,
Yeah.
has just uh, come out of the doldrums, and those guys are performing and having, you know, great leaders, and doing the right thing, and bolstering their economy, while Western Europe is all about, I don't want to say wokeism, but you know what I mean. They're all about all all this crap that doesn't matter about anything.
Well, right. They don't believe in nationalism. They're anti-nationalism, right?
Right.
They think that everyone's a citizen of the globe, and they're all afforded some sort of rights.
Yeah.
And I think they've got. I mean, Starmer's at the point over in England of locking people up for sharing memes. They're saying mean stuff on Facebook.
Yep.
Germany's cooked. France is cooked. I can't.
Yep.
Italy's still fighting their way through it with Melania. Georgia. I I would guess in the next 20 years that you don't have Great Britain anymore. You have Great Muslim Nation.
Yeah.
That's their goal.
I actually have an aunt and two cousins in Germany, Stonsdorf, Germany, and they all voted AfD. Everybody they know voted AfD, and they said that there's some really funny stuff going on, like worse than our 2020 elections.
Yeah, I saw some stuff, and I don't know how valid it was, but I definitely saw some stuff online saying that, hey, right, we were a poll watcher and we hadn't even started counting yet, but the TV on outside said so and so this or so and so that one, or I don't know if this was Germany specifically, but it was in a recent election. They just basically did the same thing to Canada too. Although Canada didn't really have a chance because their
Yeah,
Conservative Party candidate was a
yeah,
joke, absolute joke.
yeah. He had not only did he not have any qualifications, he had no platform. He was totally unprepared. It's like going to take your SATs and you didn't study.
His
You know,
platform was,
he
"I'm
could
going to go
not
to war with
answer the
Trump."
question or anything.
His platform was, "I'm going to go to war with Trump."
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have anything else to worry about in Canada. You're going to fight Trump. All right. Good luck. Jesus, these people, I swear to God. Well, if Trump, let's be honest, if Trump wouldn't have won this one, we'd all be in they were already doing it to us. They were already doing it to Trump. They're already finding ways to lock up people for erroneous firearms charges and, praying outside of a clinic, women's health clinic. They were already trying to do all this here in America, so I just hope people are paying attention when it comes to midterms. And so, just a personal fear of mine because nobody on either party really participates in midterms, and
Yeah,
that that could turn out bad if all of a sudden the very angry at Trump crowd shows up and just picks up 10 seats. That's all it would take.
that's
Impeachment.
all it would take. Yep.
Impeachment. We're now Germany. We're now England. We're now inviting in Tren de Aragua.
I think we're probably. I think France is probably weeks away of putting boots on the ground in Ukraine.
I don't get that one. How does that benefit them?
It doesn't, but they don't know that.
So are they just hoping that they're going to force Orange Man Bad into a war with Russia?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
That
they're willing to sacrifice their people, kill their people. They don't care. It's not their family. It's not their rich friends dying. It's just, that this is literally a game of chess. Send the pawns out to benefit yourself. That's
yep.
that's all.
100%, Nick. That's exactly what's going on. Yep.
I mean, I get what they're wanting to do, which is what they've wanted the United States to do in World War One and World War Two, is come save their ass from. We've talked about this before, Paul. Right? I'm gonna go start a fight, and when you guys punch back at me, I'm gonna go get Big Brother over there on the west.
Yeah.
Uh,
Come
I'm
back
gonna
and
go
go, now what do you got to say?
now. Yeah, now what do you got to say now that you got this guy? And I'm really hoping Trump just really starts making moves to dismantle NATO and start forming alliances that actually make sense to the West.
Yep.
Pick up Bolsonaro, pick up Miley,
Yep.
pick up uh, Giorgia Melani, start picking and just start a brand new alliance and go. We're not. No, we're done being your pit bull.
See, well, maybe if we go to war in Europe again, we can finally finish World War One and end federal income tax. Because federal income tax is supposed to end with World War One, so maybe we can go finally finish that and end income tax. I don't know. No,
I
I'm
look,
anti-war.
I'm totally okay with eliminating the federal income tax. It was it was supposed to be a temporary program, but I don't. Nobody wins World War III. Nobody wins. If it's just a European war and we're not involved, nobody still wins. But at least we're not sending people into a meat grinder, because if you're going to fight a war against Russia, it's going to be that type of warfare. It's going to be trench warfare. It's going to be World War One stuff, and people are just nothing good comes out of it. France couldn't win a war to save its life. Great Britain could probably hold off an invasion for 3 hours. I mean, nobody's got an army anymore because they've depended so heavily on the United States for defense.
Right.
They don't have the equipment, they don't have the
Right.
manpower, they have not trained anybody.
Right. And you know, if if it were reciprocal, a lot of the countries would have what usually happens is we sell them our last generation stuff. But in Germany, they still have AWACS. They still have the 737 based airplane with the big disc on the top from 1982. And that's one of their frontline, over the battle space command. Like, we're at least 4 generations past that. And they still have them at Geilenkirchen. They still have them outside of Munich. They still have them at Hahn Air Base. Those AWACS planes are all over the place, and that's their latest technology. It's just it makes no sense.
It cracks me up when they do an air exercise with those. It just cracks me up, Paul. See that they put video footage of that out for the world to see. Hey, look, we're flying our AWACS around with a couple of 40-year-old fighter jets. Look how cool we
Yeah,
are.
Some
yeah,
MiGs. We're gonna fly some MiGs around. We're gonna fly Desert Storm era shit. But
yeah. Right,
I
big 18s. Yeah.
I do think that Russia has a lot of stuff up its sleeve that intentionally leaves off the table, and I really do think that if Putin wanted to take Ukraine, it would have been a month, and he would have had it. He would have just blitzkrieged it, and it would have been over. I do think that all of this is just kind of like a global chess game between the global world leaders, and I don't think we'll ever really know exactly the inner dealings, the inner workings. But I also do feel like drone warfare, and especially the Chinese firework drones and stuff like that, China is probably going to get in the market of mass producing drones that can inflict a whole shitload of damage on a battlefield, and I could see it going there here in the near future if it keeps escalating.
You want to
Oh
jump on
yeah,
that one, Paul?
I agree with that 100%. And Russia is currently uh, outside of the U.S. Iran is one of the biggest drone manufacturers out there, and Russia is buying up all of their drones from Iran. And I have to say, it's reverse engineered, but they have pretty good technology on their drones and stuff because of drones they've shot down of ours, and they reverse engineered them. So Russia is taking that into account as well.
So when Iran reverse engineers something, are they just bringing in Chinese engineers to reverse engineer that, or is there actually people in Iran that have
No,
this
no,
level?
no. Iran's got some pretty good engineers, and
Okay,
I'm sad to say, but the lion's share of them got their engineering degrees in the U.S.
makes sense.
Yep,
Sadly,
Yeah, so
yep.
there's no Iran. Everybody thinks that only the Western world is educated as far as this kind of stuff goes. I mean, there's Indian physicists in shithole India that can build a nuke. None of this is groundbreaking technology. We had the USS Nautilus in 1952 with a
Oh,
micronuclear reactor.
oh yeah,
You know,
yeah,
none of this is groundbreaking technology, even though the government tries to say that it is. It's actually very, very easy to replicate. You know,
yeah. And no, it really is, and
yeah.
and I'm glad you brought that up because the third front in this global battles that we're having is Pakistan and India have fired back up again, uh, going against each other and fighting over the fucking godforsaken place in Mongolia, that they both think is theirs, and they're both saber rattling their nuclear power, and you know, somebody's gonna fire off, man. Somebody's gonna pull the trigger, and it's just gonna be too bad.
Oh, I agree, 100%. I don't look. Pakistan and India have been fighting for as long as I can ever remember over territory that's probably Chinese. But that's not my fight. That's between the 3 of them. So I
Yeah,
do it. That's
yeah.
stupid. That's but if you look at historically, it's probably Chinese territory. At
Oh,
least
it
my
is. Yeah, it's definitely Chinese territory. But even China has said, okay, you guys mutually destruct each other. Go ahead. We'll be over here when you're done.
Well well, Nick was talking about high-tech drones that like, what you're gonna look at over the next 5 to 10 years as, skirmishes take place over the place, it's gonna be, low-tech, very cheap, over-the-counter, drones that they can control in a drone swarm from a small internet base, doesn't have to be connected to the internet, but a small Wi-Fi signal that they can cover about a mile worth of drones
Yeah,
and inflict unbelievable damage on a battalion or on a tank group or on a
sure.
even on a we've seen this because we've fought them off and we have some technologies, but coming after an aircraft carrier strike group, and that's where you're going to see these countries that don't necessarily have the proper technology. They're going to be able to get into the game for super cheap,
Cheap. Yeah.
super
Yep.
cheap.
But here's the biggest question that I ask. The United States seems so overly concerned with Iran having nuclear technology. Iran has oil. Everybody has oil. So right now it seems like the battle around the world is nukes and oil, but it's not about nuclear power. And so it seems like they're using nuclear bombs to fight over oil to stop the progress of nuclear energy, or at least that's how I see it.
So you're talking specifically Iran, or are you talking including the greater region with you start moving towards China with Pakistan and India?
The whole world, all of it. Everybody is nuke this, nuke that, nuclear bombs, oil, energy. But they never mention nuclear energy when they mention energy resources.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah. That's so spot on observation, Nick, because that's Iran's argument. They're saying we're not developing nuclear weapons. We're developing nuclear energy to have an energy source for our people. And the whole time they're developing nuclear weapons. And the nuclear weapons are going to be fired on countries uh, to take their oil and not develop nuclear energy to make them a better place to live. It's just, yeah, you're
I mean,
spot
seriously,
on, dude.
yeah, no, seriously, look it up. The USS Nautilus, built in 1952 by a
Mhm.
private company, not even the government, a private company in America, built a micronuclear reactor that powered a submarine that was in service for almost 30 years. Perfectly safe, nobody died, no accidents since 1952. And since then, all we've been doing is fighting over oil. That's just something to think about.
Oil
Yeah,
controls the world, of course. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, it controls economies. Absolutely. So yeah. Um, but
Why
do
would
you give everybody nuclear reactors to power homes, things like that? I don't know. I mean, I you could make an argument. We're looking at this miniaturized nuclear stuff here in the United States. It really shouldn't be hard to do, but there's an issue, and it comes down to taxing. It comes to power companies saying that they're a private industry, but they want to raise your rates because they want to do research and development. The problem is if the research and development doesn't work out and it's not profitable for them, we paid them to do it for free when they're already a monopoly. When you could look at if we go to uh, relatively affordable miniaturized nuclear reactors to generate power through a steam turbine or something, right, on a river. Then you could have all kind. You could bring back co-op power, where you'd have a choice. I can get it from a big bad energy monster, Duke Energy, or I get it from country corn and nuke down the road from me, and there's 1,500 co-op members, and we're all part of the co-op.
Yeah.
And start freeing America from being captured by these monopoly energy companies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, Florida's got one of the biggest nuclear power reactors in the U.S., down in um, Melbourne on the East Coast. There's a huge uh, nuclear power plant there. And then there's, everybody remembers 3 Mile Island. So that's been renamed and repurposed, not repurposed, but regenerated. And it's a huge up in New York State. It's a huge nuclear power generator. Um, I just I don't understand why there's no appetite for that.
because
It was
Because
because
like Nick
fear,
says, it's low risk.
very
It
low.
generates a lot of, and it's clean energy. It's not coal or anything like that. And I just don't understand the pushback.
because at that point, if you had micro nuclear reactors, I'm talking like city level, county level.
Right,
Um,
the size of a
y-
Volkswagen.
Yeah,
yeah, you would actually have grid independence to where no matter what happened, you wouldn't lose a whole state or multiple states because that power generation system went out. So you'd actually have grid independence, and the risk being low, and then at that point, so the initial investment is high, but the longevity of steam turbines, magic rocks boil water, and at that point, something like EV could actually power everything. Once that initial investment done, the fuel rods and heavy water
yeah,
and even turbines themselves, those are very low maintenance, very inexpensive.
right,
But at that point, and energy right now controls the world. So once you have extremely cheap, reliable, affordable energy on a completely decentralized grid, then the fear mongering goes away. Then the control over people's psychology goes away too. They can no longer use certain things as a tactic to kind of bait us into certain scenarios, and then it takes away from the big oil. Big oil controls the world. That's really what it is, and they know they're going to have to let go of it eventually. That's why they push against the green energy. I'm a career electrician. I've installed a lot of solar. I haven't done too much here in East Texas, but in Colorado, the math still works. I've worked on even 25-year-old systems here in East Texas that still put out maybe a 25-30% loss on their initial claimed output with
Wow.
virtually zero with virtually zero maintenance costs. And
right.
and so when you look at the real numbers, solar is efficient. Solar does work, but nuclear is better. You
Well, the
know, and
difference, the difference, Nick, is energy storage, right? We don't store energy even with a nuke. Elon's come up with a way for us to start to store energy, so you can bleed it off at night or during hot summer days when you're running your AC, and then recharge it right through the power wall. Super efficient battery technology. You're gonna get 20 years out of this battery rack you install in your garage, and he's got big ones for warehouses too. And that's been a power. That's just been the issue with like solar, is that you couldn't save it, but now you can. And now that you can, right? You're gonna find people that are just know-howers like you. They're gonna build their own power wall. They're gonna go out and buy 20 high efficiency photovoltaic panels because photovoltaic works even when the clouds are out. It works off the UV light, not off direct
Right,
sunlight.
right.
And they're just gonna go tell the power company, DFY.
Yeah, but even then you think nuclear. So in Colorado, there's a company called Iron Edison. If you jump on Google, they went out of business because their batteries were too good. You could discharge them,
Oh,
like up to 95% discharge. On average, 40-year lifespan. There's some still in existence. Nickel iron batteries. Um,
okay.
but their batteries were too good that they went out of business. Oh, they had nothing but 5-star reviews on Google, and that's really the problem. Is no matter what, oil is gonna not allow nuclear. That's really what it is. It's oil refusing to let go of control. It's almost like getting our government to understand the 10th Amendment. You
Well,
know, the
that's a good point, but I'm gonna make the argument that we need oil for all the other things. You still got to make tires. You still got to put together fabrics for your car seat. You still got to make shingles. But as far as power goes, you're right. It doesn't. We're in a time period in 2025 where we could probably make the switch to all electric with the where we're at with battery technology. The problem is the grid won't have handle it. And go back to what Paul asked you earlier. I think people they've still got the Western world terrified of nuclear, and they've been de-nuking the United States ever since Chernobyl, and they've been using that as an excuse, which was a horribly
Right.
built facility, right? It wasn't self-containable. It was just, hey, we're going to throw something up and get some power out of it, and then it melted down, and now we've got, I don't know, a wonderful wildlife living there, and you can go take tours for $100. It's, and you
well,
see
look,
people taking on YouTube all the time, going and taking this video tour of the Chernobyl campus. Like it's incredible. It's just
yeah,
lost in time.
and then look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Beautiful city, skyscrapers, everybody's there. There's literally nothing wrong with it. And they're like, well, the half life of plutonium on an explosion is 20,000 years. And people are, that's simply not true.
It's
We're
It
not
is
using
true.
not
Yeah.
true.
we're using uranium and nukes right now, not plutonium. Uranium's not scary. Plutonium is.
On which isotope, but either way, all of them are just magical rocks that boil water and make steam and make
Yeah, that
energy.
they get hot. They get really hot, and you can do things with stuff that gets really hot. that's
I
all it
used to have
does.
magical rocks. I don't anymore.
Oh man, back in Vietnam. What? Oh, all right.
Say
So,
hi. This is my son, Waylon.
hey, Waylon,
Oh,
good to see
hey,
you.
He's
You're
hey,
got,
on
yeah.
somebody's TV right now because
that's
we've got a
from,
bunch. We've got some watchers, and I guarantee you, at least one of them has it up on the TV.
Dude, I'm digging the Monte Carlo mullet. That's awesome.
dude, he's got the world-class mullet, man.
It's awesome. He should grow up and drive IndyCar. There's money in IndyCar. Trust me, a lot.
I think
Yeah.
we should field an orange podcast bad IndyCar.
Dude, how awesome would that be, right?
How would that be, dude? Yeah.
Uh, I mean, if we could pay that much money to field a car, could you? If they better let us sit on trackside booth,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And we'll go with we'll get full headphones, full microphones, and we'll podcast the 500 live.
Live. Just do it live. Yeah.
Yep, just have a camera pointing out and three cameras pointing at us.
And, and red solo cups.
Man, are you gonna make it the full 4 hours?
So, here, let me ask you a question about EVs. I've been trying to get Elon Musk to think about it. I'm an electrician. A lot of people have worked with cordless tools, right? So we'll have these phones that sometimes when they die, it takes forever to charge them back up. Why don't electric vehicles have changeable batteries like power tools? instead of parking your piece of shit at a charging station, why don't they just have the ability to have 2 batteries?
It's the size and the weight. So it's
It's the size and the weight. They're huge, dude.
so you have well no they're the size of like a 12-volt or sorry, a 24-volt like bus battery or semi battery, but you have like depending on the size of the vehicle, you have 40 of them. Or on a larger vehicle like a semi or a bus, you're going to have 120 of them all in line. And so you're swapping out 120 80-pound batteries. Or on your EV car, you're swapping out 40. And then you're also the other issue is it's high voltage, Nick. You're talking on an EV car, you're looking at bare minimum 240 to 360 volts. And I know you could do it, but there's people, man, they're gonna zap the bejesus out of themselves uncoiling that or unhooking those in series, taking them out, putting fresh ones in, and hooking them all back together in series.
Out on this, if the robot built the car and put those batteries in there to begin with, can't there be charging stations to where a robot does everything? You just pull up like a damn car wash or an
Look, you're gonna be able to buy an Optimus robot. He's saying 25 to 30 grand. How long is it gonna take the robot versus charging it at a level 2 at 240 volts?
No, not even like a humanoid robot. I'm just talking about automated. The cars can drive the damn stuff. A machine can somehow insert some sort of forklift type thing under there. They're assembled by an assembly line of robots, and it could be done in figuratively a matter of a minute or two. And on you go down the road. So say you're taking a road trip from here to New York, you don't have to park your car and charge it for 8 hours.
Typically at a supercharger, you're spending 10 to 20 minutes. So you're kind of like you're still getting into the same. Like if you're doing a pit stop for a battery swap versus hitting a supercharger, you're looking about the same amount of time, I guess. And the other big thing is this isn't 12 volts, 30 amps. This is high voltage. So even the robot, I mean, somebody's got to unhook it from the series.
To me, you'd have to lift the body off the chassis and put a new chassis in there with the new batteries and drop the body back on.
And they're not all in the belly.
Efficient way to do it.
Depending on the vehicle and depending on how big the vehicle gets, they're all over the place. You might have a couple up over the front wheels. You might have a couple up over the back wheel wells. Like on buses, you see those 2 rows that run up and down the side of the buses? Those are additional battery banks in line all the way up and down the front of the 40-foot bus. And then they hang a whole bunch of them in the wheel wells, and they hang a whole bunch of them in the back where the diesel motor would have went. So it's not all one single battery component with 2 connections. Does that make sense, Nick?
I've never heard of a supercharger being able to fully charge in anywhere close to 20 minutes. I've never really done the stats on the damn Tesla. I drive trucks.
Well, sure. What do? You do it like so. If you're going to use a Tesla, 20 minutes on a supercharger is going to get you the next 200 miles down the road. Like if you're doing a full road trip, you just tell the Tesla, I'm going from New York to Los Angeles. And they goes, well, here's the route you're going to take. You're going to stop at these charging superchargers along the way. And while you're there, I found that they have a really great restaurant. You can go inside. I'll give you a full charge on this specific stop for 45 minutes. You guys go in and eat dinner, and then we can go another 400 miles down the road to the next place where we just got to do a boost.
Either way, that's still just a massive drain on our grid, and at that point, that's just a better argument for nuclear energy.
Yeah, no problem there. I've got no issue with that. Nuke it up, baby. Give me more nukes. There is one a couple of miles that way. I ain't scared. Although if you hear the alarm go off, the connection's probably about to die in about a minute. But I'm not scared. Paul, it's fine. It's a modern nuke. It's 2 of them. They got 2 of those little puppies in there.
I got a 1987 250 with a 460 big block. And I have the same kind of setup because I have dual fuel tanks. And so when my back one goes empty after 6.8 miles to the gallon, switch to the front tank and do that one for the next 170 miles till that was empty. And then I fill it back up for $110. No big deal.
I just don't see why people are so afraid of nuclear. And the only thing that comes to mind is big oil wants to maintain control of energy.
I'm
That we still do.
100%. And
We
I got to tell you, if nuclear was all that, Mobil, Exxon, all them guys would have bought into it years ago, and they would have dominated it if it was all that in a bag of chips. I really think that because they're like you said, Nick, they want to control it. So the oxymoron is a lot of these big oil companies out here in West Texas, they use wind and solar to power their pumps to get oil out of the ground. you know, you know what I mean? They got the big windmills and stuff that are running these things that are running the oil pumps and stuff. So
I think at this point, big oil sells fear instead of energy. I think they do everything they can to bastardize nuclear energy. I really do.
oh sure, yeah, because they're capitalists, and they want you to buy their product, not another product.
It's capitalist without free market, and they've worked their way so far into all of government and so
Yep.
far into the EPA and just everything. Corporate tentacles have overran the government for
100%, no argument. Yep.
and it started with Reagan and the elimination of antitrust laws to where
Yep.
corporations could buy out mom and pop businesses. And then that turned into bigger businesses buying out smaller businesses until you just only have a few choices. And right now with energy, like what are your options in your area? Who actually provides the energy? Granted, they came up with this whole thing of providers to where they weren't charged with a monopoly. So at
Sure.
least where I live in Texas, we have Encore, but you have providers, or you have community co-ops, but it's still
Yep.
Encore selling the co-op the energy to get rid of the
Right.
monopoly, but it's still a damn monopoly because it comes from the same source.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So I'm with Wood County Co-op, and they get all their energy from Encore.
so Encore doesn't have a monopoly, even though Encore is the one selling them the energy, and they can't make their
Right.
own.
Right. Yep. But I also have a generator, so I'm glad on that because Wood County Co-op, it could be cloudy outside, and we'll lose power. You
Well,
know.
look how mad they get when you try to throw up the equivalent of a PV panel system in a power wall and ask for a disconnect from the local power company. Look how
Oh
mad they'll
yeah.
get at you. They're going to freak out. They're going to charge you a minimum, even if you unhook, of what, like $60, $70 a month, just because they had to run a line to your property.
Yeah.
They don't want anything to do with what Elon's trying to do, or some of these other companies that are everybody hates Bill Gates, including me, but he's doing a lot of R&D on these miniaturized nukes that will power an entire neighborhood. Uh, they don't want anything to do with it, and I get your point, but Nick, that it's big oil, but it's really big government. Big government wants to regulate this because it all gets lined back to their pockets at the end, doesn't it?
Big oil is controls big government. When you look at the industry. So I'll give you an example, just as an electrician, on how industries control everything. You guys remember the arc fault breaker deal when that first came out? Arc fault circuit breakers for houses as a
Oh, yeah,
requirement.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah. So you remember, on the initial packaging, there was a house on fire and all this stuff, and it was just a fear mongering tactic. So when that first came out, I was actually going to Red Rocks Community College in Colorado, um, and one of my teachers, electrical engineer, he had a PhD and a master's license in electrical engineering, and he was actually on the code making panel. And the one thing that I always believe is numbers don't lie. And what he said is for every 30,000 houses that burn down, um, about 3 or 4 of them are because of faulty wiring that could have, just an accidental mishap, right? Rather than somebody doing something stupid. Basically the homeowner, not the electrician. Space heaters, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Just actual premises, permanent wiring.
sure.
3 to 4 out of 30,000. And then when you look at that 3 to 4 out of 30,000, and how many could have been prevented by an arc fault, about again 3 or 4 out of those 30,000. So the numbers are just not necessary. That's 3 or 4 out of 30,000, and then 3 or 4 out of those 30,000.
Yeah,
So the math is it's just absolutely retarded, and they just sold fear. They sold your house is going to burn down. This will protect your house. This will stop all of it, and it's just completely irrelevant. But what they did is they went to the National Electric Code as a manufacturer. Hey, we invented this product, and we're going to make a requirement, and you have to
Yeah.
put this in, or you can't get an inspection.
No, overregulation has been the death. It's gonna be the death of the West. 100% agree. Ground fault current interrupter outlets too are the bane of every wife who's ever run a hairdryer. They're retarded. They're absolutely retarded, and
yeah.
you get yelled at every time to go reset the breaker, and you're like, "It's not the breaker. It's the damn switch in your
It's the
bathroom.
GFI.
Hit
Yep.
the button." So let me ask you this, Nick. Like, you get to play Sim City. We're gonna build new cities. How would you power them? Would you partially petroleum, partially solar, all nuclear? Like, what would be your model for us? Like, let's say we're gonna set up a new city, a small one of like 3,000 people.
I would probably do nuclear for everything, but then I would also have generators, for periodic maintenance, some sort of backup, and then um, solar if people wanted, and once it comes down to deregulation, at that point, the government is not going to be as concerned with regulating solar.
Right.
Once the nuclear energy is just there, and somebody does want to live off the grid, then they would be able to do so if that's what they wanted. And I would actually encourage that. If they want to buy an Elon Musk solar panel, and just to boycott nuclear energy, that's their freedom of choice. Let them do it. Let
All
encourage
right.
people to live off grid. Give people freedom of choice, but have the nuclear energy there because it is the cheapest, safest, most reliable. But if somebody wants to live off grid, please live off grid. We'll encourage it. Have fun.
So cell phone and FM radio stations, both those type of antenna towers, are required right now to have diesel generators with at least a capacity buried as diesel. So you can have diesel above ground, but buried 7,500 gallon tanks so they can operate for several days in the event of a natural disaster. That's petroleum, of course, but that's in case of a power grid failure, and that's to keep communications up, AM, FM radio, and cell towers. Possibly TV towers, depending on where you're at. If you could get, a lot of people can, but not everybody get a static UHF or VHF digital TV a signal. What would you and that's regulated, that's mandated by the FCC. What would you change that? Would you keep it the same? Would you do you have a better option?
Well, it doesn't always have to be local, and I would talk to that station, and I would talk to all the stations. I would say, hey guys, let's figure out the best option for you. we're not going to try to mandate it, because obviously, especially during a disaster, everybody's going to be tuned in, and that's where you're going to get, your most amount of money. So let's talk about the
Sure.
best option for you. What is your existing system is? How much money did you put into it? And then, is it just at least will it work? Yes. Well, I'm not going to make you change it if you already have the infrastructure in place. If you don't, let's talk about the best option for what you need, and let's
All
try to
right,
make something
man, I'm
happen now.
sorry you guys are getting me to this late in the show. That brings me to some of this is subsidized. And PBS and NPR are claiming we're part of that network. We're part of the ones that can share the information in the event of a natural disaster, like what happened just up there 7 months ago in Western North Carolina, where everybody lost everything and they had no technology to tune in, except maybe a wind up radio, right? Where you literally uh, wind the thing up. Um, so, thoughts about, again, regulation. Now we're talking about I could get maybe the NPR station because the government pays for them to be open. They're going to keep trucking fuel in. Do you care if NPR and PBS are still on for just that mode only?
Absolutely not one bit. So in my house, I actually have walkie talkies. I talk to my neighbors. Actually, I have 6 walkie talkies in a little Faraday cage. You can jump online. There's Faraday bags. You can buy your own Faraday cage, and you can just talk to your neighbors and talk to your community. And even if what NPR was there, how long did it take for FEMA? How long did it take for a disaster to get there?
Yeah.
So just because they say the news doesn't mean that help's coming. You still need to be prepared for the disaster, and the government
Right.
can't mandate anything about that. And as we saw in, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, even California, the wildfires, it's all just a shit show. The government can say whatever the hell they want on the radio, but nothing actually happens. So people just sit there and fear monger rather than just thinking about what could happen and talking to their community and getting to know their neighbors.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
they'd rather jump online and talk shit about everything rather than just grab themselves by their man parts and go on and walk and talk to their neighbor. Hey, look, if something ever happens, hey, I'm here for you. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's where how we really fix things to where there's no longer fear mongering. You just go talk to your neighbor. Shit hits the fan, go talk to your neighbor. Hey, like let's figure this out. And then, because if you're just sitting there by yourself in your house, you're afraid because, well, the last thing I want to do is go talk to my neighbor that I've never talked to before, and now I have no food for 3 days. But if you talk to them before, you already
Yeah.
set yourself up for success.
Good
Right.
stuff. I'm like
Yeah,
Paul.
we got the same thing here. We've got probably 6 ranchers around me. All our fences butt up to each other, and we're all we've got a central text family. And so when the bad weather comes in, or my stupid ass healer dog starts moving my neighbor's herd and he doesn't want his herd moved, he could text me and go, "Hey, can you come get your dog?" That kind of thing. But we use it mostly for bad weather and things like that, where we always reach out to each other. Everybody good, um, and there's probably 9 of us on the text, and I think 6 of us have generators. So we've always got 3 people, 3 families that were like, "Hey, y'all don't have generators. If you want to come over and hang out over here, you're welcome. To come and stuff instead of sitting in the dark." You're on mute, Sean.
Sorry, so you wouldn't use PBS or NPR to find out any information in that scenario either, Paul, right?
Oh, never. Absolutely not.
So, all right, let's get rid of it. Oh, God, I heard. Well, Jake Tapper, the worst human being on the planet, was interviewing someone about this and said, well, but I learned how to read from Sesame Street. And I go, well, that explains a lot because my mom taught me how to read. And then I went to school. I learned how to read before. Jake, you serious? You learned from Sesame Street, and that's your
Oh,
argument?
was he defending the
He was,
USA
oh
such
yeah,
a
you gotta keep
oh,
PBS
yeah.
NPR because their content is just like the children. Save the children. And hey, listen, YouTube people, this is not an advertisement to YouTube corporate. Go buy one of these things. If you want to know what it is, hit me up in the chat room. I will explain it to you and get your contact information. That's what you need in an emergency.
Yeah,
Is it?
GPMS radio, yeah, hell yeah.
Well, it's not specifically that, but yeah, yeah. I just don't want to. I don't want YouTube to say you're advertising. Oh man, good space. I liked it. Did you have fun, Nick? Did you have a good time?
Oh yeah, man. I thought you were gonna grill me on some of my controversial beliefs on stuff the administration. I thought this was gonna be like a
That
hot tier or something,
that
man, rather than a buddy chat. So I was ready for World War III and shit, you know.
All right, so
It's been
we'll
great,
do
man.
some of
It's
those.
been
We
great.
will absolutely do some of those, but Friday we just kind of just chat. Monday, Wednesday. If you want to do a battle, I'll do a battle with you. Absolutely. We definitely battle over on the tech side of X. We don't have any problem with each other, but we battle, right?
That's always good to hear somebody else's opinion, man. And you know, I don't know about you, but everything I've ever learned in my life, I learned by fucking something up. I've never learned by success. Everything I've ever learned was by failure. You know, usually by hurting myself, hurting somebody around me, just doing something wrong, taught me to do something right, and that's why I like talking to people that have very contradictory opinions. As long as we can, I guess, look each other eye and just shake our hands back. We agree to disagree on this, but you know, I understand your opinion and I respect it. You know,
Yeah,
and
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what being a normal adult is all about.
Who knows? Maybe next Wednesday. I don't know what Paula and I will have for Monday because it's not Monday yet. Maybe next Wednesday. One of the things you talk about often is the 10th Amendment, and I'm a big states' rights guy, but I have some disagreements on your thoughts there. That would be a great. We could probably make 20 minutes of Fight Club out of that. There's all kinds of
20
stuff.
minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes. I'll have to take the day off of work, dude.
All right. So we're gonna close this one out. You're gonna hear a song, and then you're gonna hear a bunch of screaming in the background. Why? Because it's funny. How do I
Sounds
turn
good.
this shit off?
Thanks for having me, dude.
Where's the button? Oh yeah. All right. I got you.
I have to
Fine,
move.